This is Trevor Greer, analyst with Coast to Coast Sports. Today's presentation is about the Fort Garry Invitational basketball tournament, a little bit about the history of the tournament, the legacy of the tournament, and the upcoming resurrection of FGIT.
It was all a dream. Something like 44 years ago, I stood in this very field. We're here at St. Norbert Immersion School in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it all began. Yeah, so this is kind of cool. I mean, 1970, and I'm starting to date myself here, but back in St. Norbert, and we're going to be driving past the birth house here right away. Bring back a lot of memories. You know, I used to have my godparents over on the street here. My parents wouldn't really let me off the block to go too far because I'd get into trouble, but yeah, it's kind of cool. It's going to be coming up right here just past the trees, 182. They've obviously changed the color of the house now. It used to be green and white.
So what was it like growing up out here?
You know, it's a French community. And it wasn't bad, you know, we kept ourselves out of trouble, and we kind of did what we needed to do. I remember it was so cold because we're from the Caribbean that my mom would walk me to this bus stop here that we're going to be coming up to right away, and we would stand there waiting for the school bus to come. Yeah, we'll be pulling up to that right here. Man, this brings back a lot of memories. This is when you could ride your bike and go around the street and get into trouble here. Right at the corner here is where we used to load for the bus. And the bus would pick us up and take this route to St. Norbert Immersion. You know, later in life, it always helps you when you know two different languages, and that's definitely one thing that I'm happy about growing up in St. Norbert. It's always stuck with me. And like I said, it's a very small, safe community. So when it was time to push on after 10 years old, kind of moved up the street here to a different area, which was Fort Richmond. You know, coming here when I was about 10, 11 years old and my parents building this house, it gave me the opportunity to learn a lot and see a lot. Things that we're missing today, like having a trade. You know, having a trade is a really good way to support your family if you can't do anything in your career. And these are things that we have to do, you know, each one teach one, so that we get better with each generation. So obviously the chain got a little longer here. I was able to ride my bike a little bit further and do some more things when we moved up, just like the Jeffersons. And you know, coming back here still brings a lot of memories. It was my adolescence all the way through my teenage years until I left to go to Ottawa and play basketball on the hill. So here's going to be the house coming up right on the corner here at number 3 Point West Drive. So, Waverly Heights. What can I say? I think some of my most memorable and best years came out of this area. I met so many amazing and great people. And one thing I really love about Canada is that we are a true mosaic. So a lot of these people from this area stuck with me all the way from my adolescence through my adult life. I can't really say that I know too many schools that have a strong alumni like Vincent Massey does, and we've always stayed together, and I think that's terrific. Coming up here to our left shortly, you'll be seeing Arthur Leach, and I think I was a little bit before my time all the time, because even when I was in grade 7 here, I ended up playing for the grade 9 team. So my skill level was never really anything that held me back. Like I said, I was always ahead of it, and it just made me the person that I was to prepare me to go to Ontario. So leaving Arthur Leach was a little bit of, I don't want to say a turbulent time, but I wanted to grow my wings, really show who I was. I felt that, playing against the guys that I've been beating for so many years from Acadia, if I went to Fort Richmond, maybe we could be the better team, better than Vincent Massey. So I came up here for my grade 10 year. I just didn't play freshman. I played varsity and freshman, both in the same year. And man, did we used to run on them. But the problem is that this was just too small of a school, and if I really wanted to do something bigger and better, I had to spread my wings. So in grade 11 and 12, I decided to go to Vincent Massey just up the road, and that's really when I started to say nothing was going to stop me, and I knew for a fact that I was going to go beyond Winnipeg. We're passing Fort Richmond here from a different perspective now. Something that was really cool back in the day was University of Manitoba had an airplane hangar that was actually called Bison East, and we used to go there on Sundays, and I guess the best players in the city would just be like a melting pot. I'd actually call it the Rucker of Winnipeg, because the best of the best would play there. It didn't matter if you're blind, crippled, crazy, 8 to 80. If you could play basketball, you'd be on that court. So I learned a lot of my craft and my practice from there, and these are things that just could not be duplicated again. So when I reminisce and I think about Winnipeg, I definitely think about old Bison East.
Was that one of your better experiences?
As far as Winnipeg's concerned, yeah, because like I said, you just can't duplicate that by today's standards. It was either your party yesteryear or not, and only the people from that time will be able to put some type of correlation together about it.
Young to old, when it comes to bullying, nobody wins. During this period of social distancing, take the time to really reconnect with your loved ones. Let's talk.
So here we are, sitting in the parking lot of Vincent Massey Collegiate. One of the greatest things that have ever happened to the sport of basketball in Winnipeg was the Fort Garry Invitational Tournament. There was teams from all across the country that came into Winnipeg in order to play in this invitational. Now, you couldn't just submit to get into this tournament. You had to be invited, and that's the difference. This has gone by wayside, it's folded, and it's unfortunate, but I'm such an advocate for the sport. I'd love to see something like this return. Now, we couldn't get into a lot of trouble back in the day, because right here to our right is District 6 Police Station. That definitely kept everybody in check at this high school. firmly knew from the time that I came here in grade 11 and grade 12 that I would definitely go above and beyond Winnipeg for the sport of basketball. But I was definitely able to practice my craft here at this school and continue my relationship with a lot of lifelong friends that came out of the Waverly Heights, Fort Richmond area. Can't say enough.
We're here at Coast to Coast Sports at Vincent Massey Collegiate to make an announcement that's something that's very near and dear to both of our hearts. I'm Trevor Greer and this is Vin Robinson, and we are here to announce the return of the Fort Garry Invitational Basketball Tournament. Now, what makes this such a significant announcement?
Well, Trevor, both you and I are alumni from Vincent Massey, and I think what makes it such a terrific announcement is that Coast to Coast Sports is dedicated to see the resurrection of this tournament. It started this weekend, this long weekend. You actually saw with the Midwest Sport Showcase that we were putting our stamp on sport in this province, and it's just an indication of what's to come for the future.
Because where I come from, and in many parts, in other parts of the world, most people, we do understand that sport, it's more than just the team or the club that you support. It becomes your second family. And in North America, that's something that we have lost, in my opinion, again. Because sports, it's one thing that's supposed to unify us, as especially looking at what the Canadian government were promoting. We say inclusion, diversity, and see on how we can all unify as one big country. But you look at it, there's some limitation when we talk about sports and accessibility and affordability. When often we talk about inclusion, and some people may say, oh, because of particular race, religion, background, social status. But when you come to sports, there's one thing that brings us all together. It's that one language, it's one song we can understand, right? And that's what sports should be, a sense of where everybody can be included. It's not about business, it's about community.
And I know the initial Fort Garry Invitational started in 1960 with the opening of Vincent Massey Collegiate. So even though there has been a break of a number of years between editions of the tournament, this is a tournament with an illustrious history. And it must be really exciting to get it going again and rewrite some history as time goes on now.
Yeah, I think that it is, but there are people in the world that are history buffs, and they want to appreciate where we were in order to know where we're going. And then there's the changing of the guard, which is the new position that wants to put their own stamp on things and see things go in a different direction. My opinion of what the Fort Garry Invitational Tournament is going to be is maybe something a little bit different. The invitational aspect of it might be one player invite, so that we're making kind of like an all-Canadian aspect of what this game would look like versus numerous teams from all across the country that are coming in to compete. So the position's a little bit different, but with recouping after COVID, it makes sense for the positioning.
Yes. Also, I do remember teams that came in from as far away as BC, some teams that came in from the States. There were girls' teams, there were boys' teams. Is that the vision now as well?
Yeah, that's still the vision. You know, through our partnership with Scotiabank and Herzing, we do want to focus on the point of inclusion, where we're not turning our backs on any gender. We are really gender neutral. We'll find a place for people to land and being able to play, and that's the focus. If you could ball, if you're cream of the crop, it's time to get ranked.
Started in 1960, the Fort Garry Invitational was created for a newly built Vincent Massey Collegiate. It was modeled after the Luther Invitational Tournament, which is held annually in Regina, with the goal of becoming one of the more prestigious basketball tournaments in Western Canada. The Vincent Massey Trojans were almost instantly a force to be reckoned with provincially in boys basketball, and that's gave the FGIT a jump start as far as prestige. Teams from all over Canada and even the US were invited to participate in the tournament. With high degrees of success, the Vincent Massey Trojans won their share of tournaments despite the strong fields in this tournament, which, success breeding success, ultimately led to better teams being invited, and more often than not, the FGIT became a preview of provincial championship games. In 1985, the FGIT expanded to include a girls' field as well. The girls' tournament was previously called the Fort Richmond Invitational and ran at a Fort Richmond Collegiate, but amalgamating the two tournaments added to the prestige both of the FGIT as well as giving the girls an equal footing profile-wise, given the fact that FGIT was a large tournament with a 25-year legacy already.
Ladies and gentlemen, you now tuned in to another exciting episode of Community Speaker. We are now in the Fort Rouge area. The reason we're in Fort Rouge today is because we're here lobbying for something that's greater than our calling. It's the calling of the entire south end of the city, all of Fort Garry. We have talked about Fort Garry being a business zone that doesn't have much support. We are here to lobby with the return of the Fort Garry Invitational Tournament in order to make it happen. Typically it happens in the month of December. We're pushing to have it in Remembrance Week this year from the 11th to the 18th at Vincent Massey for the boys, as it traditionally was, and Fort Richmond Collegiate for the girls. But without stalling on that, what we want to get to is that we need a place for true professionalism to occur. I'll give you an example. If you want to play football, you can practice your whole career and then go play professionally for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. If you want to play hockey, you could do the same and land with the Moose or the Jets. If you want to go play baseball, we've got the great Goldeyes in our city. Soccer, you've got Valor. But where do you go if you need volleyball support? True path to professionalism. Where do you go if you need true path to professionalism for basketball? There's nowhere. We get deflated. We play our entire career only to get to 18 and say that there's no stepping stone to take us to the next level in our own province. We've got to go against the grain, come up with money out of our pocket, travel across the country, go play in the Golden Horseshoe of Toronto, Montreal. That's tough at 18 years old to do. Not a lot of people can do it. I did it, and maybe the person that I am today. So I'm back in my community to make it stronger and lobby for things that the community needs. We're here today at Fort Rouge Leisure Center, a city-owned venue. You can look around the community, tons of great people, tons of dense capacity, people living here, but it needs a facelift, it needs support. Wob Canoe, we're knocking at your door. Sherry Rollins, thank you for your support. But we still need more help. We need direction. We need to know, safe restart, what's coming in our future for education to help our student athletes that were deprived. So, with that being said, we're taking the step to make application towards something called Manitobaville. Manitobaville, we're going to tell you the great story about Fort Garry. We're going to tell you the great story about the illustrious history of the Fort Garry Invitational Tournament and everything that we need to do in order to get a safe restart and really create change in our great city, our great province, our great country, our great continent.
At the height of the tournament's popularity, over 1,000 people would attend the Vincent Massey Gym for the championship finals, which, now that there was 2 of them, was twice as likely to involve a team from one of the 2 host schools. Over the years, FGIT has meant a lot to a lot of people, and this is because as the tournament progressed, basketball by its own nature is an inclusive sport. It doesn't matter what your race, creed, any of that, what it means once you get out on the court. Once you hit the basketball court, it's showtime, and it's about teamwork, and it's about total commitment to the game itself. In 1985, as previously mentioned, the girls' tournament amalgamated with the boys, meaning that it became a co-ed tournament. Various demographics joined the FGIT as well as immigrant populations increased in Canada, and highly talented players from all countries around the world eventually became represented in some facet in this tournament. FGIT set itself apart from other basketball tournaments in that the major award winners also receive bursaries and scholarships to further their education beyond high school. This in itself set the tournament apart from other just regular basketball tournaments that you could complete in 2 days, crown a champion and give a trophy to. This had first and second team all-stars, most sportsmanlike, MVP awards, and all were attached to a bursary or scholarship. And at the time of the FGIT's peak popularity, this almost meant more than the championship. Throughout the FGIT's history, there were some extremely talented athletes and even athletic families that participated in the FGIT, including from the Shaftesbury Titans, Todd McCulloch, who went on to play for the 76ers and New Jersey Nets in the NBA. He stood 7 feet tall, and Shaftesbury's offense involved running through Todd under the basket. He would average 40 points a game throughout the tournament and was an outstanding talent. This is just an example of the quality of play that this tournament had. The FGIT also acted as a homecoming of sorts. At the time of its inception, Vincent Massey didn't have a football team, and the homecoming tradition hadn't really been established. However, with FGIT, that was the school's homecoming. Alumni would come far and wide just to watch some basketball and to be a part of the tournament that was so near and dear to their hearts throughout their high school years. I can't stress enough the fact that community involvement was a big part of FGIT. Whether it was the corporate sponsorships, at the time Boston Pizza was a big player of the game sponsor. Dairy Queen had an award they sponsored as well. You know, the small businesses in the community of Fort Garry were all, I can't say all, but were very involved in the production of the FGIT. With being involved in this, the public knew that there's a large tournament going on. The public was curious. They supported FGIT. Success breeding success once again. The front page of the sports section of the Free Press on the Friday after day one of competition always featured an FGIT photo as well as a list of scores from the games. Early on in the tournament's existence, even individual player stats were listed in newspapers in Winnipeg. This is the sort of tournament that Winnipeg needs to revive in a post-pandemic environment. We have talented young athletes throughout the entire city and, in fact, Western Canada and perhaps even the US that would love an opportunity to participate in a tournament of this magnitude. An opportunity to participate, to compete against other talented opposition, see where they rank, and increase not only their own profile but that of the teams they're playing on and against. Basketball is not only community supported, but the players and teams are a community unto themselves. And this is what makes a tournament of this magnitude so special. The FGIT is, and we hope will be again, an elite tournament in terms of its prestige level. But it's sort of almost to the point of where there's an everyman or woman aspect to it. And that comes from the fact that high school basketball is basketball in its purest form. You know, you have young players that have never played the game before. They get on the court, and many of them have a talent they didn't realize they had. This showcases their talent and will showcase their talent in the future. And with the community excitement that builds up the week prior to the tournament and crescendos at the championship game and the awards ceremony after, this is the kickstart that the sports community needs in Winnipeg. And for the love of all things basketball, especially at the high school grassroots level, we are at Coast to Coast Sports are greatly anticipating the return of the Fort Garry Invitational Tournament. Trevor Greer, Coast to Coast Sports, Winnipeg.